Good afternoon. It is 1 p.m. here in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, and this is The Ambassador. With me, Ambassador Paul Madenge. And this is where we debunk global diplomacy and geopolitics. Now, to our very first story. The peacekeeping mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo strongly condemns the resurgence of violence in the Ituri province, which has resulted in the deaths of dozens of civilians. Susan Nganga brings us more.
At the United Nations headquarters in New York, optimism has been quickly tempered by a resurgence of bloodshed in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Just days after the Congolese government and M23 rebels signed a declaration of principles in Doha, hailed as a key step towards peace, the UN is now confronting fresh violence in the east. UN Deputy Spokesperson Farhan confirmed that 82 civilians were killed in recent attacks in Ituri and North Kivu.
The peacekeeping mission in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, MONUSCO, strongly condemns the resurgence of violence in the Ituri province, which has resulted in the deaths of dozens of civilians. The mission is especially concerned by the repeated and deadly attacks carried out by the ADF, the Allied Democratic Forces, which have claimed the lives of 82 civilians in the provinces of Ituri and North Kivu.
The Allied Democratic Forces and armed groups like Codeco are being blamed for assaults on villages, including looting of a Catholic church in Jugu territory.
MONUSCO also condemns the attacks on civilians that occurred earlier this week in Jugu territory, as well as the looting and desecration of the Catholic parish of Lopa, attributed to the Codeco armed group. MONUSCO encourages provincial authorities to continue promoting dialogue among all communities in Ituri to reduce tensions.
But for millions displaced by years of war, peace is still a distant hope. Over 4.6 million people have fled their homes in North and South Kivu since 2022, nearly 500,000 during a single flare-up around Goma in late 2024. Access to food, shelter, and medical care remains dire, and gender-based violence is surging. The UN Refugee Agency warns of critical funding gaps as humanitarian needs soar. Meanwhile, regional tensions linger. The UN continues to monitor cross-border dynamics, including alleged military support to armed groups from neighboring states. Susan Nganga, GBS News, Congo.
And now, a landmark ruling from the International Criminal Court has brought long-awaited justice to victims of violence in the Central African Republic. Patrice Edward Gaisona and Alfred Yekatom, two former militia leaders, have been convicted of war crimes and crimes against humanity for orchestrating brutal attacks on civilians. Here is more on the verdict and what it means for peace in the region.
At the International Criminal Court, justice has been served. Patrice Edward Ngoisana and Alfred Yekatom, two former militia leaders from the Central African Republic, have been found guilty of orchestrating brutal attacks on Muslim civilians during the country's 2013 to 2014 sectarian conflict. Ngoisana, once head of the National Football Federation, was convicted of 28 war crimes and crimes against humanity. Yekatom, known as Rambo, was found guilty of 20 crimes.
On the basis of its analysis of evidence submitted and discussed at trial, and as set out in the judgment, the Chamber has therefore convicted Alfred Yekatom of a total of 20 crimes, comprising both crimes against humanity and war crimes. The Chamber has also convicted Patrice Edouard Gaisona of a total of 28 crimes, comprising both crimes against humanity and war crimes.
Together, they led anti-Balaka militias in a violent campaign that left thousands dead, including 1,000 killed in a single day in Bangui.
As specified in detail in the verdict rendered by the Chamber, Alfred Yekatom has been found guilty of a number of crimes he committed in the context of the attack on Bangui, the events at Yambara, and during the advance of his group on the PK9 Baiki axis. namely attacks against the civilian population as such, murder, forcible transfer, displacement, and deportation, directing an attack against a building dedicated to religion, torture, cruel treatment, other inhumane acts, imprisonment, and other severe deprivation of physical liberty and persecution. Further, and as specified in detail in the verdict and in the judgment, Patrice Edouard Ngaisona has been found guilty of a number of crimes he aided, abetted, or otherwise assisted to in the context of the attacks on Bangui and Bossangoa, the events at Yambara, and during the advance of the anti-Balaka on the PK9-Baiki axis, namely attacks against the civilian population, as such, murder, forcible transfer, displacement, deportation, directing an attack against a building dedicated to religion, torture, cruel treatment, other inhumane acts, imprisonment, and other severe deprivation of physical liberty, destruction of property, and persecution.
Victims were tortured, buried alive, and targeted solely for their religion. After a 4-year trial with over 170 witnesses, Yekotom received 15 years in prison, while Ngoisana received 12.
Mr. Yekotom, having considered all the relevant factors for the determination of the sentence, the Chamber sentences you to a total of 15 years of imprisonment. Mr. Ngaisona, having considered all the relevant factors for the determination of the sentence, the Chamber sentences you to a total of 12 years of imprisonment.
The verdict comes as two major rebel groups in Central African Republic dissolve, raising fragile hopes for peace. But the court's message is clear. Those responsible for atrocities will be held to account. Elvin Muyodi, GBS News.
And now, Guyana, the Dominican Republic, Barbados, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines and Ecuador are among the first signatories to the Global Biodiversity Alliance. The signing marked the start of a global movement and a call for countries and institutions to collaborate in protecting the ecosystem that sustain life on Earth. At the edge of South Africa's wilderness, leaders, scientists, and environmental advocates debated how to confront the growing biodiversity crisis and how to mobilize the funding and political will needed to protect it. Guyana provided a symbolically complex setting. It's a country rich in offshore oil reserves, yet it has also preserved over 85% of its rainforest and is positioning itself as climate leader
for the conservation of tropical forests.
The contradiction was not ignored, and for many acknowledging it was an important first step.
The president being willing to stand on stage, acknowledge that his country is dependent on oil and gas, but also acknowledging the importance of protecting nature is an incredibly useful and important signal. Because we do not have enough leadership on the global stage, particularly from the global south.
15 signatories, including Guyana, Barbados, and Ecuador, joined the indigenous organization from the Amazon to back the declaration.
You are staying strong.
They pledged to strengthen global action for biodiversity protection, restoration, and sustainable use. But delivering on those promises will require funding.
I believe that once financing starts to flow in a way that is predictable and that is at a level that we need, that skepticism will disappear. And what we will have would be more advocates for this cause rather than skeptics.
The signatories hope more nations will join before the COP30 climate change conference in Brazil this November, where the urgency of aligning climate and biodiversity goals will take center stage.
I think that what we have to understand that maybe the key word for the moment we're living is urgency. Bringing together these two issues that were somehow born in Rio in 1992 is one of the things we have to try to do at COP30.
Ambassador will take a short break. We'll be right back with more as we debunk global diplomacy and geopolitics.
Welcome to
Fun Dance Class.
Today we will continue learning about Jingle Bell Rock. Friends, first you cross your arm and put it on top of your head And as you go in left side, you open it, then you come back to your place.
And then you make your leg 90 degrees. And then as you put your legs until 90 degrees, you need to jump a bit. 1, 2. Then as you jump a bit, you need to stretch your hands downwards.
We are going to go straight to the topic of the day, which is AI in education. AI in education.
AI is called artificial intelligence. I think this is something that computer techs designed to make our life easier.
If you just write everything that's on ChatGPT, when you're going to your work or whatever you want to do, your interview, you're going to feel miserable.
If we are going to use AI to show out your creativity, then that's not really you who did it, but like there's AI and there's you combined together.
AI should be just there to maybe enhance your points, but not just to generate for you the answers.
I think it's like 50-50 because sometimes it's like, yeah, you're just using it to like enhance like your creativity, and then other times it's like you're just stealing other people's ideas. You're not like really thinking.
Stay tuned as we dive into the vibrant world of creativity and expression.
Practice your work.
Yes.
And when you keep on practicing, you get better,
yes,
better and better each day.
Yes.
And as you get better,
yes,
you get now that niche of yours. Yes.
What advice can you give to those watching who are in a 9-to-5 job, but they have a gift?
My advice would be,
yes,
do not sleep on your talent.
Yes.
Just show it up to the world.
To the world.
Whether it is art, whether it is music, wherever you are gifted, let the world know what you are doing.
Which classic artist would you love to spend one day painting with, and why?
Grandma Moses. She started painting in her 70s.
Oh.
And she excelled.
Yes.
As, she was a painter.
Yes.
But she started painting professionally,
yes,
well past 70s.
Wow.
And by the time she died in 102, she had done marvelously in the art world.
Welcome back to The Ambassador as we break down the developments news for you and get the bigger picture on what's happening globally. And now, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky vowed on Wednesday to retain the independence of anti-corruption agencies, bowing to pressure from the first wartime street protests and rear back from European allies. For a second day in a row, thousands of people across the country, from Kyiv in the northeast to the capital Kyiv to Lviv in the west, took to streets demanding reversal of the law curbing the independence of anti-graft agencies. In his evening address to the nation on Wednesday, Zelensky said he would submit a new bill to ensure the rule of law and retain the independence of anti-corruption agencies. Thousands of people turned up for a second day of protest in central Kyiv, close to Zelensky's office. In the first such demonstration of the war, the youth, activists, and war veterans chanted, and I quote, "Shame and veto the law," end of quote. And now, in an unprecedented show of executive pressure on monetary policy, President Donald Trump visited the Federal Reserve's Washington headquarters, criticizing its $2.5 billion renovation project and urging Chair Jerome Powell to slash interest rates, marking a bold politically charged move that blurs the traditional boundaries between the White House and the Independent Central Bank. Here are the details.
U.S. President Donald Trump has made a rare visit to Federal Reserve headquarters, criticizing a $2.5 billion renovation project and renewing pressure on Chair Jerome Powell to cut interest rates. The White House called the spending excessive, with Trump claiming an actual cost of $3.1 billion, a figure Powell.
Well, I'd love him to lower interest rates, but other than that, what can I tell you? The country is doing really well. I just briefed the chairman on the deal we made with Japan. Japan is putting up $550 billion in order to lower their tariffs a little bit. That way they have a little bit lower tariff. And they also opened their country to free trade, which nobody thought was even a possibility. And we get a zero tariff in the free trade. We don't pay tariffs, and they're going to pay 15% on everything they send into our country. So it's great. But they put up, as you could call it, seed money. Let's call it seed money. You could call it anything you want, but it's it's a total of $550 billion. So nobody thought any of that was possible, and it's wonderful. And we're doing pretty well with the European Union, likewise, and we have some others. They're all really big, and our country's going to make a lot of money. We would be helped if interest rates would come down, but we're going to see how the board rules on that soon. I'd love to see them come down a lot, but we have a country that's thriving. We had a dead country 1 year ago. Today we have the hottest country anywhere in the world.
The visit comes as Trump intensifies efforts.
And now, that's all for today with me, your Ambassador Paul Mathenge, on the Ambassador 1 p.m. Follow all of our stories at GBS TV Africa. It's updated throughout the day. We meet every Thursday and Friday as we debunk global diplomacy and geopolitics. Good evening, and thank you for your time and company.
Everywhere, GBS.